with a massive amount of talent.
Everything about you. Everything about you.
Hello, you dirty potters. How are you today? This video is simply going to be an update from my Patreon page, and I've never really made a formal video on what my Patreon page is, and for those of you who don't know what Patreon is, I'll leave a link down below for you. But Patreon has contacted me asking me to make a couple of changes to my page, and I kind of figured along with letting people know what Patreon is, how my Patreon works, and the changes that are coming up on my Patreon page, and how you can support artists like me, I might as well just go ahead and make a giant video on it, because I think transparency is a good thing, especially for my community. I think you guys know me well enough by now to know that I'm a very blunt and honest person, and the only time that I lie is when I don't know the truth and I'm just regurgitating information, which is bad. You should always look things up before you state them. Now, before we go any further, if you don't know what Patreon is and you don't want to hear my explanation, I will leave a link down below for you, so that way you can look at a 3-minute video. It'll tell you exactly what Patreon is, it'll let you know most of the details, and you can be on your way if you just wanted to know what that was. But for those of you who are active members of Earth Nation and my Clay community, I will let you know what my tiers are, what they do, and how you can support me, and some of the changes that are going on. Now, the short of it is that Patreon is a website that allows people to support you on certain levels that are usually set by the artist. I would be the artist in this case, in order to make sure that these artists not only stay alive, but they keep on producing work. Let's say, for example, that you come home every single week to see that one YouTuber that you really like, that one artist produce content that you really like, whether it be me, Tim C, John the Potter, even Markiplier and Jacksepticeye. I know what happens in the video game community. I'm hip, my fellow teens, and you like that content has helped you somehow in your personal life or in your artistic life, or you simply just find entertainment in that content. Patreon is a way to support them to make sure that that content keeps on rolling. For example, my first kiln that I ever bought, my ghost over there, was bought with partly Patreon money. And that's because a lot of people came together, supported me, and it was like $1 a month at that point, who said, hey, I like your videos, you give me good content, you give me good information, you've helped me somewhere in my artistic life, here's $1. And sooner or later I collected enough money to buy myself a kiln. It's been a dramatic change in my life and I couldn't do my work without it. It also makes sure that your favorite artists on YouTube, or regardless of wherever it is, honestly, they don't just do YouTube, but it really makes sure they have enough money to buy their equipment, to get new cameras in case anything breaks, to replace equipment, and make sure that they stay stable as far as the regular content that they bring you on a weekly or daily basis. Now, I'll be honest with you, when I first heard about this, I thought it was a sham. My friend's parents told me about it, and I was like, I'm not doing this. This seems like some kind of weird scheme. But it's not. Honestly, it really has helped me. And if you like me as an artist, or you like any other artist on YouTube, they most likely have a Patreon page. And if you look it up, that small amount of support that you give them every single month from many people really helps them stay happy, healthy, alive, and make sure that they have a bunch of equipment to keep on bringing you good content. The only reason I have this camera, this stand, my kiln over there, and some of these lights to light around me is because of you guys. I bought my first editing class, as well as learned how to edit and bought my first editing software with Patreon support. That's how vital it is to creators. But don't think it's just a one-way street. Each and every tier usually has some type of reward if you're a patron. For example, one of my first tiers on my Patreon page is that you get early access to videos. If you really like my videos and you can't wait to see them every single week, you'll either get extra videos. I think my patrons actually have like 7 extra videos that aren't public to YouTube right now, or the high majority of the time, they'll get the videos early before the public of YouTube gets to see them. And that's just my way of thanking you guys to care enough about me as an artist or as a creator or whatever I am to you in your life to support me. Because regardless of how you view me, you still support me. You're the person who keeps this channel alive. And because of that, that's the way that I kind of give back to you, is that I give you a little treat, or I give you more of what you like because you support me. And I will be 100% honest with you, the high majority of people on Patreon are usually cosplayers who don't seem to have a lot of clothes on with a massive amount of talent. And that's essentially the rundown of what Patreon is and how it helps most artists. Now, the reason I'm making this video today is because Patreon contacted me and they kind of want me to change my tiers around. I only have 5 tiers, and I try and make the tiers that I have on my Patreon fairly low. For example, My first tier is like $1 or $2 every single month. My second tier is $5, and that's as much as I usually get as the $5 tier, because that's what, a cup of Starbucks coffee every single month. But then there are people who are very, very down for the channel. They want to see me not only succeed and keep going, they want to see me thrive. And they have like the highest tier. Now when I go to these other Patreon pages for the people who have a wonderful set of talent, usually they have tiers to the $100 and $200. I don't have that much. I honestly don't need that much support. The amount of support that you guys give me is fine. I'm very grateful for it, but I will never go over $30 a month, and that's my highest tier. And at that point, I usually send you guys something as a piece of gratitude for supporting me on that level. I have 5 different tiers on my Patreon personally, and not only are we gonna go over these tiers in this video, we're also gonna go over some of the changes that I'm making to the tiers. Now, it's really not that big of a change, but Patreon has recently contacted me and said, hey, this is what's okay to have on your tiers, this is what's not okay to have on your tiers. When you change the stuff you have on your tiers to make it acceptable to our guidelines, we will then keep on letting you have a Patreon page. And because of this communication between Patreon and I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of give you guys the rundown, because I think transparency is a wonderful thing as far as my channel goes. Transparency is a wonderful thing, okay, on both sides. I'm just gonna leave that little comment there. You do with that what you want. Let's look at the tiers over here. It's a lot darker over here. For my first tier on Patreon, you simply get a shout out on the YouTube channel. At the end of my video, you'll most likely see your name. I will thank you. And half the time, I'll usually give you early access content. Content that most people don't see on either Instagram or YouTube. I kind of have a little folder on my computer of like, only patrons get to see this. And that's what you get for the very first tier. You get a shout out as well as getting to see just pictures of pottery that I like, but I don't want other people to see yet, but you support me in that way, so I kind of want you to see them. For my second tier, what I do is I put you on a list. I usually choose off 4 to 5 names every single month from that list, and I send people pieces of my artwork through the mail. Now this is the thing that Patreon's asked me to change, because I usually pick these names by random. Once I put you on the list, I'll go through the list every single month, usually after the first support has gone through, and then I'll go ahead and check off those names if I've given you something. But Patreon doesn't like that I'm doing it randomly. They really don't like the fact that there's chance or luck in the giveaway. They don't like that. They want to make sure that every single person gets something, and I'm actually fine with that. To be completely honest with you, that's kind of what I was doing anyway. The rules of my second tier clearly state that once you've already won something one time, I cross your name off the list, so that way everyone has a chance to win something. Sooner or later, as long as you're a patron of that second tier, I will be sending you something in the mail. But Patreon doesn't like this. They just want me to make a list and simply go down the list. They don't want me to pick anybody at random anymore. So the sooner you're a patron, the sooner you get your stuff, if you really just want to get that stuff. But usually people on the second tier, I find that they just want to support me and they want a piece of my artwork sooner or later. Most of my patrons are pretty cool people. They don't usually just support me because they want shiny things. But this is the tier that I'll be changing. Soon after I edit this video, I'll most likely be changing that wordage over. I will take anything of gifts, chances, giveaways out of that, and I'll most likely just start going down the list instead of picking people at random, because that's what Patreon's asked me to do. And God bless the person who contacted me, because I did not understand what this person wanted at all. I had 7 different back and forths on email with this person, a bunch of different conversations, and I didn't understand what they wanted. But to Occam's razor it down, they just don't want any chance or luck to be in it at all. They want to make sure everybody gets something sooner or later. Here's how the conversation with the Patreon representative pretty much went. Hey, we noticed for the second tier of your Patreon page, you have this giveaway thing where people can have a chance to win. Yeah, is that not okay? I mean, I don't really have everyone have a chance to win. Everyone wins sooner or later. Yeah, no, we can't have that. You have to make sure everyone in that tier wins sooner or later. Well, see, the way that tier works is that once you've won something, I cross your name off the list. So that way, technically, everybody wins once sooner or later, until I've gone all the way back through the list. So let's say if your name is Steven, and Steven won something one time, I cross his name off the list until everybody's gotten something, and then I go back through so that Steven can win again. As long as I don't get a lot of supporters every single month, which I usually don't. It's usually about 2 or 3 a month, and I usually send out about 5 or 4 packages a month, then I'll get through everybody and I'll probably cycle through. Okay, you see, that's not really the problem. The problem is that you pick people randomly. We can't have people picked randomly, and we can't really have luck or chance as part of that tier. You have to go down a list. Everyone has to get something if you promise something for that specific tier. Or you have to open it up to the public. So if you're doing a public giveaway and there is chance, that means everybody who's part of Patreon, even people who don't support you, still have to have a chance to win. Okay, hold on. Are you saying that I have to take the advent of chance out, or are you saying that everyone for that specific tier that I promised something to needs to get it right now? Because with shipping, handling, making the item, and then going to the store and sending it off, that would probably bankrupt me. It's about 30 bucks every package I send, and that doesn't include the actual value of the item. Oh, no. No one has to get everything right now. You essentially just have to make sure that everyone gets something, which sounds like you're already doing that. You simply just have to make sure that it's not randomized. So what we want you to do is make a list and kind of just go down that list. Okay, that sounds like what I was already doing, but instead of random, you just want me to do it in order from when people support me to when the last person supported me, and that it's a line. You want me to put people on a line. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad, but yes, that is what I want. And that's pretty much how the entire conversation went. I will put screenshots of all my emails back and forth to this person right here so that I can have proof and no one can be like, you're clearly lying for money. And this is kind of a weird scenario for me because at this moment, they pretty much just don't want the advent of chance or luck in the giveaways or the gifts that I'm giving to you guys. But at the same time, they just want me to put them in order. That's pretty much what they're asking me to do, because as long as everybody gets something sooner or later, they're okay with it. And I keep on sending 4 to 5 packages every single month. So I'm gonna get to everyone sooner or later as long as they're okay with waiting a little bit. And Patreon seems okay with this too. They just want me to change the way I present it versus how I'm doing it. That is literally the only change that's happening to that tier. And to be honest with you, if I didn't tell you guys this information, you would have no idea. If I just picked 4 to 5 names out from the list each and every month, you wouldn't know whether they were random or not. You would have no idea. You have no idea when other people are signing up to this tier. It's crazy that I have to do this. It's insanity. But again, I value transparency as part of this community. So I'm telling you just in case you guys need that information, which technically you don't, but again, I just feel like being honest and truthful with you. My third tier allows you to get commissions from me first. Each and every month, I get a boatload of commissions and I have to send them out each and every month as well. I usually send them out whenever I do Patreon gifts, so I come out with like 10 packages and the UPS does not like me. But at the same time, I have a bunch of commissions and a bunch of work I have to do every single month, and if you're a patron on this tier, I put you at the top of the list. So if you ever wanted anything from me, I get on your work as soon as possible. There's nothing changing about this tier. This tier is gonna stay here. For the 4th tier, I've usually opened it up for anybody to get advice from me. So for the 4th tier, you're allowed to message me anytime you want. I open your messages first, as long as you message me on Patreon, or if I know your name, I'll usually open on Instagram as well. Because I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of my patrons, I usually remember a lot of their names and I go, oh, Amy wanted to message me on Instagram, boom, I'll open that, because I know she's a patron of mine. This tier essentially gives you full access to me as far as messaging me. I will just open up your messages each and every time and answer any pottery questions that you have or any ceramic questions you have. This tier is getting a major overhaul. Instead of this, I'm going to allow you guys to help me make decisions in Earth Nation Ceramics channel and Patreon. Whenever I make a giant change to the YouTube channel, my artwork, or my Patreon, I usually ask you guys for your advice. For example, the intro you just saw for this video, I made maybe 4 or 5 different intros, and all my patrons voted which one they liked the most. So the intro that you saw for this video is an intro that the patrons picked. They support me enough for me to actually ask them what they want from the channel. They like my videos so much, they decided to make sure that my channel stays alive, and I feel like they have stock in this channel now. Because of that, I want them to help me make decisions on the channel so that they're more comfortable with the channel and how I present information to them. And that to me is a very big step. This tier is pretty much getting a major overhaul. I'm changing it from I need advice because as it turns out, I just give anybody advice who wants it. Each and every time somebody messages me, I feel bad turning them away because I kind of just want to help people. And because of that, this tier is super useless. So instead of asking for my advice, I'm in turn asking you for your advice. You now have the availability at this level to decide what actually happens with the channel. The 5th and last tier is the highest tier I can go. I've had people ask me to make higher tiers. I'm not gonna make higher tiers. I feel like this amount of support is enough for me to survive off of. I'm not trying to get in this to make money. I'm honestly just trying to help people. But at the same time, I like the support that I'm getting. It really keeps me going as an artist and as the channel progresses. I feel like it's beneficial for both parties. But this tier is getting a little bit of a change, and for good reason. You see, at the final tier, as soon as the monthly support's gone through, I usually just send you something. You see, you don't have to wait with the 2nd tier people. You essentially just skip the entire line. As soon as that month is up, I pretty much cross off your name and I send you something straight through the mail. If you are part of this tier, the next time I go out for a Patreon delivery, you will get something in the mail. But this tier is set at a certain amount of money, and the amount of money it takes to craft something, package it, and deliver it is technically worth more than the actual tier is. Full disclosure, this tier is only at $30. This is the highest I ever want to go. I feel like that's enough for me. But also, if I make a couple of bowls or a couple of cups, I package them up, by the time I've already gotten to that step alone, it's already about 40 bucks for me. And the time it took for me to craft it, let alone the energy for my kiln, making the glazes, buying the clay, and shipping and handling, it's already well over $40. And then I go to the shipping store and they're like, cool, give us $20 more to ship it over there. So the amount of money that it's at right now is about half of what I actually need to give it to you. And because of that, some people have figured out that they can pretty much sign up for this tier, get something from me, and then drop that tier as soon as possible. This is really my fault for thinking that people just wanted to support me on a certain tier and like me as an artist. Clearly there are some people out there who just want shiny things, and I completely understand that. But at the same time, now I have to change the tier. The wordage will now be, instead of just 1 month of support, you have to be a patron on this tier for 2 months in order for me to send you something. Because at this point, I'm kind of getting screwed over. And this is kind of how it usually goes. You sign up for the highest tier that I have, that's how much it's worth. This is how much it took to make the piece. This is how much it takes for shipping and handling, my time and buying the materials, for packaging it myself. I have to drive there and ship it, that's how much money it's worth. That's how much money I'm technically getting from that tier. Now, unless you're a patron for a second month, I'm essentially losing money. Now, these numbers are just one person, but could you imagine if 8 people, which has happened before, sign up for this tier all together and then half of them drop? This is how much money I essentially lost on that tier, and this is completely my fault. I should have done the math before this. I was innocent. I was the stupid one. I was like, oh, people want to support me that much? I love them so, my God, people like my art. Oh, my heart has grown 3 sizes larger. I'm gonna send them something immediately as a thank you for supporting me on my, oh no, I'm poor now. I should have known, especially with my cynicalistic way of thinking and looking at the world, that people would look at me and be like, oh, I know how to take advantage of this one here. And because of that, I essentially have to change this tier to protect myself from people that want to fake support me. They just want shiny things. But that's all I really have to say to you guys today. If you want to see any of my artwork, the links are always down below for your beautiful potter eyes to see. I really hope this helped clarify some stuff for my Patreon. A lot of people every single week message me on the Earth Nation Ceramics Facebook page and ask me like, what is Patreon and what does it do? And I know I can just tell you to Google it, but usually I send them the link and I go through a very long explanation of what my Patreon is versus other people's Patreons and how Patreon actually works. I find it fun until I get too many messages, so I figured I'd just make an overall video telling you what the Patreon's gonna be from now on, how it works, and if you've never heard of Patreon, this is how I introduce you to it. This is how you make sure your favorite artists stay alive. And with that being said, I love your dirty potter faces, and I will see you next week. Before you go, hold on, just for fun, go to Instagram and type in the words Patreon. If you go to Instagram, type in the word Patreon, you'll get a bunch of pictures from people who've tagged their stuff Patreon. Do me a favor and see how many of them are half naked. I bet money it's at least 70% of people just taking their clothes off for money. That's not art, that's just porn with extra steps. Do you know what teenage boys do? Covering your nipples isn't gonna help us not look at it as porn. It's still porn.